The kitchen was a quiet pulse of heat and shadow, its granite counters gleaming under the dim glow of under-cabinet lights. I was there to help fix a leaky faucet, a favor for my husband's friend Cole, a handyman whose hands worked tools with a rough, steady grace. The drip of water echoed softly, a rhythm that matched the tension in the air, and when Cole leaned over the sink, his presence, raw, commanding, pushed rough against my restraint. I stayed still, letting the night tighten its grip. I was 34, married to Paul, a man whose love was steady but faded like a countertop scuffed from years of use. Cole was different, broad, rugged, with hands that tightened bolts with force and eyes that loosened my resolve. His flannel shirt sleeves rolled up was flecked with grease clinging to his muscled frame. My dress, a fitted navy linen that hugged my curves and swayed lightly in the warm air, caught the light, and his gaze lingered, slow, deliberate, waking a hunger I'd buried deep. My wedding ring glinted, a faint protest, but it couldn't douse the fire rising in my chest. The city was a distant hum beyond the apartment's walls, its pulse drowned by the soft drip of the faucet and the creak of the floor. Cole knelt by the sink, his movements precise, almost taunting, but his eyes were wild, untamed. I stood by the counter, my dress brushing my thighs, revealing a flash of skin as I leaned forward, and his gaze followed, dark, possessive, stirring something wild. I should have left when he opened the toolbox, when Paul's voice was still clear in my mind. But I stayed, and the night grew thicker, heavier. He offered me a glass of water poured from a pitcher, the liquid cold and sharp. "Hold this wrench," he said, his voice low, gravelly, like the scrape of a tool. I took the glass, our fingers brushing a spark that shot through me, settling low, aching, unbearable. The water was crisp, but it was nothing compared to the fire in my veins, the want that grew with every glance. My dress clung to my skin, teasing my curves, and his eyes caught it, darkening with a desire that made my knees weak. The cabinet lights flickered, casting shadows that danced across his face, weathered and magnetic. My heart pounded, a rhythm that matched the pulse of desire running through me. Cole's gaze was a weight pressing against me, and I felt it, every inch of me alive, craving, screaming for something I shouldn't. "Keep it steady," he said, guiding my hand to the wrench, his voice a soft command like he was fixing more than the sink. I could have stepped back, grabbed my purse, but my body leaned toward him, my skin begging for his touch, his force. The kitchen was a world apart, the city forgotten. His hand hovered near my wrist, so close I could feel its warmth, but he held back, waiting. "Tighten it with me," he said, his eyes locking on mine, urging me to work, to surrender. The guilt was there, Paul's face flashing in my mind, his smile as we cooked dinner here. But the want was ablaze, drowning out everything else. I gripped the wrench, my breath shallow, my body trembling with the weight of what I was doing. The night was a leak, and I was already dripping. The kitchen felt smaller now, the shadows tightening as the cabinet lights bathed us in a soft amber glow. Cole's flannel was damp with sweat clinging to his chest, outlining the broad muscles that flexed as he twisted a pipe. My dress was a traitor, hugging my curves, the linen heavy with the kitchen's warmth, my skin prickling under his gaze. The water sat heavy in my stomach, but it was his presence that made me dizzy, drunk on the promise of his touch. The faint hum of the city was gone, replaced by the steady drip of the faucet, a sound that vibrated through me like a pulse. "You're good with tools," he said, his voice rough like he was tightening more than the pipe. But he didn't move, his body a magnet pulling me closer. I thought of Paul, his gentle hands, his quiet love, the life we'd built, a routine of shared meals predictable as a kitchen clock. But Cole's presence was a rogue spark, raw, untamed, filling the empty spaces Paul never could. My fingers twitched, aching to touch him, to feel the heat of his skin, the rhythm of his desire. The guilt was a sharp twist stinging, but it only made the ache deeper, more desperate. The lights pulsed, casting shadows that seemed to sway with my heart. My dress shifted, teasing my thighs, my breasts, and I felt exposed, alive, wanted in a way I hadn't been in years. Cole stepped closer, his body so near I could smell the grease on his skin, mixed with the scent of wood polish and want. His fingers brushed my hand as he handed me a rag, a fleeting touch that sent a shiver through me, my body leaning toward him without permission. "Wipe it clean," he said, his voice a low growl, urging me to scrub more than the counter. My hands moved over the granite, the rag smooth and cool, a wordless plea my body couldn't hide. The guilt was a scream, Paul's voice echoing his laugh as we washed dishes together. But it was no match for the fire in my veins, the need that consumed me. I thought of Paul, his face soft in sleep, but Cole's touch was real, burning, pulling me under. My fingers trembled, brushing his arm, an instinct I couldn't control the linen of my dress, whispering against my skin, betraying my desire. His eyes darkened, locking on mine, a silent command to surrender. The kitchen was a cocoon, now shutting out the world. His hand slid to my lower back, light but deliberate, and I gasped, the sound swallowed by the drip of the faucet. The guilt was there. Paul's trust a ghost in my mind. But Cole's hands were real, promising a pleasure I'd forgotten existed. I leaned closer, my breasts brushing his arm, the contact sending a jolt through me that settled low, aching, unbearable. The lights danced across his face, making him look like a handyman fixing my ruin. "Push it harder," he whispered, his breath warm against my ear, sending a shiver through me that made my thighs clench. I couldn't hold back. My skin was on fire, my body trembling with need, my heart pounding like a hammer. My hands found his wrist, feeling the heat through his sleeve, the rapid beat of his pulse. I was drowning in it, in him, in the reckless thrill of being wanted this way. The sink was a trap, and I was already caught. The kitchen was a crucible now, the cabinet lights forging something dangerous between us. Cole's hands were on me, steady, possessive, guiding my fingers along the wrench as if he were repairing my soul. The glow was soft but searing, highlighting every curve of my dress, my skin prickling under his gaze. His touch was deliberate, each movement a twist in a pipe I couldn't resist, and I followed willingly, recklessly. My body was alive, every nerve singing, my thighs trembling as they brushed against the counter, inviting him closer. His fingers slid higher, brushing the bare skin of my waist beneath my dress, and I moaned, the sound soft, desperate, swallowed by the kitchen's hush. My body arched toward him, craving the contact, the sin. The guilt was a jagged bolt cutting through me, but it only made the desire sharper, more urgent. His lips grazed my temple, a slow, burning trail that made my head spin. My hands gripping his shoulders, nails digging into his flannel. The shadows danced, mirroring the chaos inside me, every movement a confession. "Feel the pressure," he murmured, his voice rough with need, his breath hot against my cheek, urging me to sink deeper into the moment. But I couldn't pull back, wouldn't pull back. The light caught the sheen of sweat on his skin, making him look like a craftsman building my ruin. My hand slid down his chest, feeling the broad muscle beneath his shirt, the rapid beat of his heart matching mine. My dress clung tighter, outlining every curve, and his eyes followed, dark and unyielding, drinking in every inch of me. His hand moved higher, tracing the curve of my ribcage through my dress, his fingers brushing just beneath my breast, and I gasped, my body shuddering under his touch. The kitchen was a haze, the world reduced to the space between us, to the heat of his hands, the rhythm of my breath. I thought of Paul, his quiet love, his trust, his hand on mine as we set the table. But the thought was fleeting, swept away by the storm of desire. Every touch was a turn of a screw in a frame of surrender, and I tightened it willingly, chasing the fire, the danger, the ecstasy. His lips brushed my jaw, his breath ragged, and I tilted my head back, offering everything. My body trembled, caught between guilt and need, but the need was a tidal wave crashing over me, drowning out everything else. His hand slid lower, guiding my hips closer, and I moaned loud now, the sound mingling with the drip of water. I was his, and he knew it, his touch fixing me in ways I'd never be clean of. Then it came, a sharp knock from the apartment door, a neighbor, or a delivery breaking the spell, and with it reality. Paul's face flashed in my mind, clear and accusing, his trust a weight I couldn't ignore. I pushed against Cole's chest, my hands shaking, my breath ragged. He stepped back, his eyes dark with hunger and something like regret, but it was too late. The line had been crossed, even if we hadn't gone all the way. I was marked, branded by his touch, and I'd never be the same. I stumbled away from the sink, my legs unsteady, my dress still clinging to me like a confession. The cabinet lights were dim now, but they couldn't hide the heat still burning inside me. I grabbed my purse, my fingers fumbling, and headed for the door, the cool night air hitting me like a slap. The drive home was a blur of city lights and guilt, my heart pounding with what I'd done, what I'd almost done. Paul was asleep when I got home, his face soft in the lamplight, peaceful, trusting. I stood over him, watching his chest rise and fall, the guilt twisting like a knife in my gut. The days that followed were a fog of want and shame. I went through the motions, cooking dinner, kissing Paul goodnight, but my mind was back in that kitchen, back with Cole's hands, his eyes, his force. I saw him again at a hardware store, his gaze catching mine across the aisles. We didn't speak, but we didn't need to. The air between us was charged, a silent promise of what could have been, what still might be. I told myself I'd stay away, that I'd be good. But every night as Paul slept beside me, I lay awake, my body burning with the memory of a touch that wasn't his, a repair that changed everything. The guilt was a living thing now clawing at me, but so was the desire, a drip that wouldn't stop. Cole was just a handyman, a man who'd fixed a sink, but he'd tightened something in me I couldn't loosen. I'd stopped short of the edge, but I'd gone far enough to know I'd never be whole. The kitchen, the sink, his hands, they were branded into me, a mark I'd carry forever. If this story set your heart racing, smash that like button. If you think I'm a fool for staying by the sink, hit dislike. I deserve it. Drop a comment. What would you do in my place? Subscribe for more stories that cut deep. Share this with someone who needs to feel the fire, and check out the next one. The truth is raw, messy, and worth it. Catch you soon.